Normally, everyone searches for the PvE Behemoth guides in order to complete their raids. But did you know when you're actually summoning a different Behemoth on the open field, they provide special unique buffs to the surrounding legions, aka your alliance members, to give them an advantage over your enemy. And we're going to break down all of the different types of behemoths, and on top of that, go through a live game example. So let's get into today's video. Hello everyone, yes, smash like, comment and subscribe for more daily videos from me, MrSneakyy, the one and only. And what we're going to do is go through all of the information you need to actually understand behemoths on the open field PvP, because there's quite a lot you need to understand, right? If you're in Season 1 or Season B2, I am going to disclose all of that information so you can understand what you're up against when you see these guys summoned on the open field, right? So let's just break down some very basic stuff that you need to know if you are the Beastmaster, right? So if you're the Beastmaster, any of these behemoths that you have access to, you can summon them only on a objective, right? So this can be a flag or an alliance fortress. If you're trying to target an enemy flag, you need to be touching territory, right? Very, very important to do that. From here, what you actually need to make a note of, especially if you're the Beastmaster, is the number 4. And the number 4 is what is the most important part of a behemoth. And what I mean by that is every 4th attack your behemoth deals is going to launch its ultimate move, right? And you know which moves are the different types of skills a behemoth has just from looking at these 3 different abilities on screen. The very first ability you see here, the little crazy chain strike looking one, is actually your basic attack. So this is just telling you, look, every attack you have with the bear, 1, 2, 3, 4, is going to be a arc swipe dealing 3000 damage if you have leveled up your behemoth from completing an elite raid. If you've completed all 4 attacks and you're going to do your ultimate move, this is going to be your second ability. This is what's going to charge up and do some extra damage, almost like an ultimate, right, for your behemoth on the open field. The third ability is a passive, and each different behemoth has a different passive and is used in a different way. So this pet, or should I say this giant bear, is a very simple one. It just summons a giant shield factor on itself, right? And this is allowing it, when it is summoned, to take a bunch of damage. So you can kind of see what the giant bear job is, right? You want to use the giant bear to summon, to actually take aggro and take as much damage as possible, but more importantly, to try and charge at your enemies and knock them up in the air and try and keep them out of position so you can kill them, right? So that's kind of like the nice basic premise of a behemoth, right? Especially if you're a Beastmaster, now you understand kind of your job and what all of these 3 different skills mean if you're playing on the battlefield. But if you're not the Beastmaster, what do you care about if you are fighting a behemoth? Because you must be sitting there like this, I don't need to know all this, I don't need to know this, and I understand that. But the one thing you do need to know is all of the different passives in the game. And we're going to break that down now. So the first different passive skills we're going to go and break down are all of the Seasonal 1 and Season T1 behemoths. These are all the different behemoths you're going to have access to in those zones. And then afterwards, we will transition into the Season B2 when you get access to the Frost Giant and obviously the Frost Dragon, right? So these different behemoths, what are their passives? What do they need to do? Let's break it down nice and simple. We've done the Giant Bear already. So we'll go straight into the Giant. And the Giant is one of the best actual open field behemoths you can actually summon out there. And you need to protect this with your life, guys. So the Giant has some easy basic abilities. Firstly, it's going to do some nice AoE arc damage to anyone in melee range, which is really nice. And then it's going to do this airborne slam. It's going to knock basically anyone in this triangular motion up into the air, and they will take a bunch of damage. But like I say, they're going to be airborne, so you can target those players because they cannot move, and they're obviously going to die. But the real power, the passive now of the giant is crazy. 2 minutes after being summoned, the giant will cast Mountain Aura. This is increasing damage dealt by itself, and more importantly, it is increasing the damage of surrounding friendly legions for 30 seconds. This is at level 1. If you obviously upgrade it through the Elite Raid, you're gaining a 90-second buff. That's 1 minute and 30 seconds in combat with 20% extra damage bonus. And all you've got to do with this giant is honestly summon it, keep it on the field for 2 minutes, and then start engaging with it. So all you've got to do is hide it in the back. Don't let it do anything until this Mountain Aura is about to pop, and then you trigger that push with it. And this is going to cause your Alliance members to do some insanely positive trades in the open field. Going into the next one is the Thunderroc, really powerful one too, and it's a lot more easier to use for its passive ability. When we look at its first ability, nice and simple, melee, again, does an arc AoE damage, and its ultimate move, if you are looking, is just this giant AoE, massive red AoE move around itself that does some insane damage factor, right? And this is kind of similar to the, maybe you've seen it in the raid when it does this move. It's very similar to that. But the power of the Thunderroc is basically, it's going to grant all surrounding allies 30% march speed for 80 seconds. You will see there is a attack bonus of 60% also. However, this is increasing its own, right? If you read the way this is structured, it's obviously very coded heavily in a particular way, increasing its attack by 20%, and then there's a comma, meaning that is an individual buff. Then it goes on to say, and increasing its surrounding friendly legions. So you only get the march speed buff here. However, later on in this video, you're going to see a gameplay example of why this is so powerful when you're trying to push your enemies out. So just remember, if there's a Thunderroc on the field, your enemies or yourself has a movement speed buff of 10% or 30%, depending on if you've completed the Elite Raid. Now, one of the scariest ones, actually one of the scariest ones that you have access to in Season 1 all the way through into B2, the Hydra. Jesus, this thing is devastating when it's on the battlefield, because it has, very similar to all the other behemoths we've gone through so far, melee based damage, and then it gains this really crazy poisonous barbs, right? This is 12,000 damage factor when you have it level 2, when you've completed the Elite Raid, and this is going to deal those crazy ranged AoE moves that if anyone's in the way, boys, it does sting if you're a T4 player. I'm going to be honest with you, so you need to be paying attention. But the true terror and the passive of the Hydra is where everyone gets scared. Because when you're in the Hydra's presence, you can see Hydra cast Poison Cloud after 1 minute. Very similar to the same conditions as the Giant. The Giant needs to be summoned after 2 minutes. It's triggering its effect. However, the Hydra only needs 60 seconds. And after 60 seconds, what's going to occur is any enemies in this Poison Cloud is going to suffer skill damage factor. However, not just skill damage factor, you are losing per stack, because you are gaining an extra stack every 3 seconds. 5% defense reduction, guys. This is going to go 5%, 10%, 15%, and I believe it does cap at around 20, 25%. I don't have the full battle reports on it. We are going to do some testing in the home kingdom, so I will give you guys more information on that in the actual, testing realms when we get into it. But this is devastating. Reducing your enemy's defense so you can just hit harder is the way to go, and you can see this being used everywhere in Season 1 and Season 2. The next behemoth we're going to go over is the Dire Bear, and you only get access to this into obviously Season 1 and T1. This is actually a good behemoth to summon again. Very similar to the Giant Bear, where it has the same moves on the charge as well. However, when it does its charge, it will have that little purple mist as well, and it does a load more damage. The real power of the Dire Bear is the passive, and it's the fact that when you summon the Giant Bear, you got to remember we're gaining that shield, so it is used to be defensive, to try and tank damage, and be even offensive basically, right? It's a really aggressive war behemoth. The Dire Bear though generates rage, and this is important. 1 minute after being summoned, you're gonna be generating a buff for your alliance members. 30 rage generated every 30 seconds, which is really good. So if you could honestly just keep this Dire Bear alive, your army is firing their skills faster than your opponents. And very, very underrated ability indeed, right? It's not insane, but it's very underrated for what it has in Season 1, right? The next one we're going to go over is the Necro Giant. The Necro Giant is very powerful as a war behemoth. Why? We have a melee-based move, like always. However, we have the first crazy actual damage factor, and this thing is devastating because it will summon a giant blue ball, and this will just keep rolling in a direction to where all of your enemies are, and it's dealing 3,200 every second this thing is on you. It is absolutely devastating when this move is online. However, we do also gain this passive. This passive is a unique buff only to the Necro Giant, and this is where you will find the good Beastmasters compared to the bad Beastmasters, because the longer your Necro Giant is alive on the battlefield, you're gonna increase its damage dealt bonus. So if you're really, really good and you're really, really sneaky and you have your level 2 Necro Giant, you have that max Behemoth text, you have all the duration you're able to get, what you're able to do is keep this thing alive for the beginning of the fight, not really use it on purpose, and then bring it in when it's got the last like 200 seconds at full HP, because you know the damage dealt is now going to be absolutely absurd when you put this on the field, right? So really, really good Beastmaster actual war. This is what it wants to do. If you're a Beastmaster, you're gonna be using this, and it does showcase who's the good and the bad. Like I said, we're gonna skip the magmas until we go over the B2 section, because there is 4 different magma demons that we have to go over. So I thought it would fill out that section really nicely, since there's only 2 other behemoths in that area. So why not make it so they have almost the same amount? So the next one we're going to cover for your Seasonal 1 and T1 is the finale. It's the Flame Dragon. It's your boy, the one that you go for to get the frame. And the Flame Dragon is arguably top 3. It is top 3 in there, right? And what I mean by top 3 is it could be argued this is better than the Giant or the Hydra. Some people might argue the Hydra or the Giant could be better. Who knows? But the Flame Dragon is kind of crazy. So what we have with the Flame Dragon, when we summon it, we have a melee-based skill, like always. Then we have its insanely powerful 1,500 skill damage factor when you have an Elite Raid completed skill. And this flies up in the air and just deals a ton of flame damage, similar to like the Raid does, to any enemies caught in those flames. It's savage how much damage this does. But The passive, boys. This is what you want to see. The real power of it. So anytime it casts Scorch Mark when summoned, it increases nearby friendly legions' skill damage dealt, and it grants them immunity from crowd control effects. So this is where the whole argument lies, right? Because you're gaining an insane buff, 30% hero skill damage bonus, and 80 seconds worth of granting them immunity to crowd control, meaning all of those Spiritborn taunts, any of the Gold Crest, lockups, none of that works on you. Any sort of silencers does not work on you. So this is insanely powerful to keep your marches up at the top. But is this stronger, like I said, than granting increased damage? This is flat all damage bonus by 20%, or is it stronger than reducing your enemy's defense by a flat amount? This is so powerful, and you can see why these three are normally your season 1 T1 go-to Behemoths to win the open field war, right? So now we've gone over the season T1 and 1s, let's jump over to the season B2 Behemoths. So we've got all of that covered all in one go, and then we can showcase a live gameplay example. So we're in Season B2 now. We've got the final different Behemoths to go over. What we're going to firstly start off is the Magmas, just to kind of finish out the Season T1s and kind of bridge it into the Season 2 one nicely. The thing with the Magma Demons, what you need to be aware of, guys, each of these Behemoths do have different abilities. And what I mean by that is they have a different ultimate that is beneficial to your army, right? So it does depend on what you want to do. However, you will also get access to one of the very first ranged Behemoths if you have the Magma Demons. So what I'm talking about there is straight away the Manipulator. The Manipulator is a mage-based Magma Demon. This is going to deal an absolute ton of area of effect fireball damage to your opponents. When you actually use its ability, you're gonna, as you can see, fire even more. It's basically like a Lilia fireball to those enemies, dealing 12,000 damage. So this thing is very good if you're using it in the, open field in the back line, right? The other three different Behemoths are all melee based. Two of them are more of a tank, while the third one is, or the last one is more like a bruiser slash almost like an assassin to finish things up on the war, right? So the first one we're going to go over is the Devourer, and he's the big chunky boy in the background, the big fat boy, looking at you right now, right? He's just going to do the same as the other three. So all three of these Behemoths do the same basic move, which is a forward arc or AoE move surrounding it. So it needs to be in the front lines, it needs to be in melee range to deal its damage. However, when you go to its hot springs, this is where it changes things, right? Because it has a healing factor. So this would actually promote the Magma Demon Devourer to kind of be used with your infantry units. Actually summon this to hit on the front line, so when it has its move, it's healing other frontline units so they can keep pushing through and keep that front line locked up, right? So really actual cool move for the Magma Demon Devourer, the big fat boy here in the picture. Now if we go to the Devastator, the Devastator is the one in the frame who takes all of the glory, who tries to look the coolest. He's got the same ability like I've just showcased in the melee range. But when he uses his ultimate, he is going to be flinging a rock. So he gains a little bit of range, you can see, to units, but he grants them airborne, which means when he throws that rock and he hits the enemy, they will be knocked up. So you can actually kill them because they're not going to be able to move. Very powerful for a CC effect. Finally, the Reaper guy, right? This is the Reaper. The Reaper, again, very same effect of its using its size, dealing a ton of damage. However, its effect, this is what's really crazy about it. You are gonna be knocking, look at this, enemy legions and surrounding the immobilized legion. So you are immobilizing one enemy legion so they are unable to move at all, and then you knock everyone around that legion airborne. And then after a short charge up, the Magma Reaper flings its scythe at the immobilized target, dealing 4,000 damage. This is obviously then reduced from any target in, the line. It's a very crazy ability because if there's no one in between the Reaper and that immobilized target, he takes the full 24k, and it is nasty how much damage that is taking. But for anyone in between, it is going to reduce the damage it takes, which is very, very powerful, right? So really good actual skill here. The one thing with the Magma Demons, though, they all share the exact same passives. If we look at the end goal here, they all do share the same one. And what this actually promotes is a weird gameplay style. You want to drop these behemoths when they're about to die in your enemies' faces, because they will self-destruct and deal a ton of magical AoE damage to anyone surrounding them, right? And this is for every single one. If you just go and showcase it, just so you can confirm it, you can check all of this information out yourselves as well. But those are the Magma Demons. They are really powerful. You can summon one of the 4 when you choose to summon the Magma Demon as the Beastmaster, and now you can understand why each of them have their actual benefits on the open field. So now let's go into the Frost Giant, right? The Frost Giant is the one that replaces the Giant in the Season 2. And I'm going to be honest with you, the Frost Giant, it's a lot weaker. It is a lot weaker compared to the Giant. So what this guy does is pretty simple. He does the same sort of AoE, moves, bangs, slaps you around with his melee attacks. But then he has the ball. The ball does state it is a damage value of 12,000% of the Legion's maximum unit count, right? Meaning it should kill the one unit and then do a ton of area of effect damage to anyone surrounding that unit. But when you use this generally is not the case. I don't know if this is just bugged or what, but 12,000% is definitely wrong on what it's stating there. But this is a really cool ability. It does do a decent amount of damage. It doesn't do as much damage as people think. And the thing is, it doesn't have a passive to surrounding allies. It actually just grants itself a shield to one surrounding friendly legion. So that's the kind of sad thing about it. Only itself and one legion gets a 3600 shield every 10 seconds. Yes, it's very often, but it's one person. And when you've got over 120 marches, one person getting a shield, sadly, is not going to be a massive game changer on the large scale of things. When we're going to look at the final actual behemoth that you can summon in the game currently, before any of the new seasons come out, the Frost Dragon. The Frost Dragon is actually pretty cool, and this is honestly a pretty good one to summon in the right scenarios, right? Because it is got a very niche use when we go into things. So it has melee-based attacks like all of the others, and then its major ability is to go up into the air, and after a short amount of time, it will slam down onto the ground, dealing a massive amount of damage to all of those enemy legions. But when we go into the passive, its effect is reducing the march speed of enemy legions by 30%. And this is really powerful, like I said, in the right scenarios. You got to remember, if you do have the Frost Dragon, that is assuming you are normally winning the season currently and you have an advantage on the open field. So what this means is if you are pushing your enemies and you're chasing them down, a Frost Dragon is going to slow their march speed by 30%, ensuring that your actual murder ball can run them down, make sure all of their hospitals gets filled, and they all get killed, right? So that is all of the different behemoths in Call of Dragons right now. We've brought down all 3 abilities, the basic attacks being pretty much the same on all. You understand now what the ultimate abilities are, and now the more important passives that each of them do bring to themselves or to surrounding friendly or enemy legions. So let's go into some gameplay so you can showcase this off with the one and only Thunderroc, because I think the Thunderroc is really fun to use, and this is a really good example of showcasing that march speed benefit for your alliance. And welcome to the Thunderroc gameplay side of things. We are watching basically a highlight that's going to loop over and over of EIS LSK versus NTS and Row. And we have more obviously footage of this, but this clip showcases a really good Behemoth player. I'm going to be honest, whoever is this Beastmaster does a really good job controlling this Thunderroc in a very clever way. So what he's doing here is going in occasionally to get a couple of attacks to finish off 1 or 2 players that are stood in position, but he immediately runs into that murder ball, granting every member there of that alliance that march speed, and this is allowing them to keep up and chase down all of the EIS guys all the way out of the range, obviously, of the Behemoth. And I think that's a really good thing to showcase. On top of this, what we're going to do is break down also the way he was using the Behemoth at the start, right? So if we look at the Behemoth at the start of this clip, what you're going to notice is it's hidden inside the murder ball. And what it's going to do is come out a little bit to tank a bit of damage and then go back in. And it's going to go back to the front and tank a little bit more damage and then pull itself back in. And this is a really good, again, philosophy to hold if you're a Beastmaster player, because what you're trying to do is get players to target your beast but then pull them into your murder ball, because obviously they're targeting you and they're not obviously understanding when you might kite back and obviously cause them really big awareness problems in their positioning, right? So really good example of a Behemoth being used here, and I do want to give a big shout out to the NTS guys here, because if you want to watch this fight properly, I have this on a live stream. You can watch one of the recent ones, and this does showcase insane fights back and forth between EIS and LSK versus NTS and Row. So I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. This has been the breakdown and guide to Behemoths on open field PvP in Call of Dragons. Hopefully now you understand, if you're not even the Beastmaster, why it's important to run away from certain Behemoths like the Thunderroc, the Hydra, the Giant, the Flame Dragon, and even the Frost Dragon, right? So really good. Hope I've helped you guys out, and if I have, you know what to do. Smash that like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video about, get everyone on here so they can understand a little bit more about some PvP gameplay, tips, and tricks. And until then, stay safe, guys. Stay sneaky. Peace out.